Welcome back. As we continue our story about a 15-year-old youth who committed a murder, I want us to focus on a conversation I had with his mother after his sentencing. From that conversation, I gained a renewed understanding of what it means to love. Judge Pitts oversaw the district court where Raymond Davis would be sentenced. The judge heard pleas on Monday mornings, so 3 Mondays after Raymond Davis was certified as a bona fide adult, the time was nigh for him to be formally pronounced guilty of murder and good to go into the labyrinth of Texas prisons. Raymond's defense attorney had hoped to secure a 30-year plea agreement for his client. Prosecutors wanted 40, but they agreed on a 35-year prison sentence. Raymond's trial would only last about 10 minutes. The judge announced the cause number attached to the youth's case, read aloud the charges levied against him, and took note that a plea bargain had been reached. Shuffling papers and then taking a long breath, Judge Pitts made direct eye contact with Raymond for the first time. He paused before speaking, perhaps to fully absorb the significance of this boy's age and the gravity of his act and the pity of it all. The judge stared at the boy, but not in a condemning manner. To his credit, Raymond's eyes locked in on the older man's gaze. He was guilty of a horrible act, felt guilty because he was guilty, and wanted to take responsibility for his wrongdoing. Refusing to hide his shame by looking down, he awaited the judge's instructions. "Are you Raymond Davis?" the judge asked. "Yes, sir." "Are you the same Raymond Davis who has committed the act of murder in the first degree?" "Yes, sir." "Do you deny your guilt?" "No, sir." "Do you plead true to the charges against you?" "Yes, sir." The judge hesitated again. I would have loved knowing the thoughts galloping through his head. Judge Pitts was a cerebral man, and he understood the significance of mercy. Oftentimes he showed it in his courtroom. But he also knew the value of holding people accountable for their conduct. "Miss Murphy, Mr. Celestine," he said, addressing the prosecutor and defense attorneys, "you've agreed to a prison sentence of 35 years for this young man. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," said the prosecutor. "We have, Your Honor," said the defense attorney. Turning again to Raymond, the judge said, "You understand, I don't have to accept this agreement, do you not?" "Yes, sir." "I've read your file," the judge said, "and I understand that you've had a difficult life. Your youth helps to explain but does not excuse what you've done. Would you agree with me, Mr. Davis?" "Yes, sir." "I'm sorry to see you here in my court for many reasons, but here you are. You were failed by whoever raised you, and then you failed to consider the sanctity of a man's life, and you murdered him." The judge's voice was soft, but stern. He again stopped and studied Raymond's face, all of it. He exhaled. With some regularity, Judge Pitts lectures defendants before dismissing them from his courtroom, but he usually reserves his fullest hellfire and brimstone sermons for full-fledged trials. On this occasion, he chose not to scold Raymond badly, but he didn't want the significance of the moment to pass without making an impact on this certified boy. Speaking solely with his eyes, the senior judge looked at the killer of a boy for a prolonged moment, silently appealing to him to change his ways. It seemed that the teenager absorbed the older man's quiet admonition. The judge broke the silence. "I don't know when or where or how things went so terribly wrong with you, young man. There's no question you've had a hard life. I get that. But son, I want you to know that if you ever hope to make something of yourself, you've got to change directions. Do you understand that?" "Yes, sir." "Listen to me when I tell you this. The people who repeatedly appear before this court commit crimes because committing crimes has become routine for them. It's as if they don't know any better. Get what I'm saying?" Raymond nodded. "Everything you do, young man, you do for a reason. Everything. It's not my place to guess the reason you committed the act of murder, but you did. Please accept my advice to change habits. Change the way you think." The judge paused. Clearly, he disliked the task of condemning a 15-year-old boy to prison, but his job was to fulfill the law. Abruptly, the stately man's body stiffened as he announced, "I will accept the state's recommendation and do here remand you, Raymond Davis, into the custody of the Texas Juvenile Justice Division, where you will remain until you reach 18 years of age, upon which time you will be transferred to the Texas Department of Corrections to complete a term of 35 years. Good luck." That pronouncement made, Judge Pitts slammed his gavel on a wooden block and closed his file on Raymond. Raymond's mother, Cheryl, observed stoically as a sheriff's deputy escorted her son from the courtroom through a side door. Her eyes were misty, as you would imagine, but she didn't weep openly. Surely her spirit ached. She was all too familiar with heartache, and she was alone. There were no friends, no relatives in the courtroom from whom she could seek solace. As people shuffled in and out of the courtroom, Cheryl slipped unobtrusively through the heavy double doorway into a corridor. Catching up with her, I walked beside this still young mother, and I made myself available for a conversation, knowing she wanted and needed to talk. Finding an empty bench away from the Monday morning bustle, she sat, and I sat next to her. "It's not a good day today, is it, Cheryl?" "No," she said, "but at least this part's over." "Cheryl," I said, "there's times when it's hard for someone like me to know what to say. But please understand that when I say I'm sorry, I mean it. I'm sorry for all you've been through, and I'm sorry for all Raymond's been through." "Thank you," she said, "but you don't have to say that, Dr. Carter. I've broken all the rules. This is what happens when you break the rules." "That's an unforgiving statement, Cheryl." "It's true, though," she softly insisted. "My mama told me to quit doing drugs, to stay in school, get me a real job, to quit hanging out on the streets and quit doing, But I did it all anyway. I did it all, and it was all wrong." As Cheryl spoke, I couldn't help but think that she was simply reminding me that when she had the opportunity to embrace a right lifestyle, she ran as far as she could in the opposite direction. No need to chide her and remind her that she was reaping the humbling and humiliating consequences of a ruinous lifestyle that flew off the rails when she was no older than Raymond. She knew all that. "Cheryl," I asked, "can you remember when you were 15 years old like Raymond?" "Oh, yeah," she said, "but I didn't kill nobody. I was probably worse than Raymond. Raymond's not a bad boy, not all the way, but I was." "Did you even understand why you were bad?" I asked. "Not really." I said, "Cheryl, I suspect you were simply trying to find your way, just as Raymond's trying to find his way." "That's true. But Dr. Carter, I'm done with all that. I've been as awful as a person can be, and I'm done with all that." "I believe you, and I'm glad for that, Cheryl. I've learned that when people rebel, they're usually trying to find happiness. All of us want to be significant, but when you're only 15 years old, it's hard to know which way to go. Too many people, maybe teenagers more than others, overstate their confusion because they know of no other way." "Well," she said, "all I can say is that what I thought and what I discovered about myself wasn't a whole lot of good." "But along the way," I asked, "did you learn something about being good?" "Maybe. I learned that you got to respect yourself. I know that much." "When you say that, Cheryl, do you mean you've learned the importance of loving yourself?" Pausing before answering, this uneducated woman momentarily nodded her head. "Yeah, I guess you could say that." "So do you love yourself?" "I don't know," she said. "It's hard." Neither of us spoke for a few seconds before Cheryl turned her thoughts inward toward her boy. "You've talked to Raymond," she said. "Do you think he loves himself?" "What do you think?" I said, turning the question around. "Probably not much right now, but I know he used to be all puffed up, talked like he was all that, just like his daddy used to do." You know, in the 35 plus years that I've practiced psychology, I've become increasingly enamored by the study of love, particularly self-love. One of the philosophical games I play with myself is to try to discern the single belief I cannot dismiss as I try to make sense of the mystery of life. Here's the sole dogma I affirm above all others. God is love. 3 words. Nothing earth-shattering, I know. But to study the depths of love is, in my opinion, a multi-layered examination of all that God is. Carrying that thought a step further, to live in God is to live in love. I should love myself. You should love yourself. Cheryl should love herself, as should Raymond. But how much self-love is healthy? And how should it be manifest? God is love. It's a real simple belief. A lot of people profess it, but it's a complex dogma, not one that's real easily understood. Aristotle, way back when, opined that at birth, young people are a blank slate. He ultimately determined that to be good, one must learn to love him or herself. I agree with that. Yet other philosophers of his ancient day offered that it's better to love others more than the self. I get that line of thought too. We're in a tug of war. Is it me, or do great minds point us toward the simple truth that whatever and whoever God is love? Without love, Raymond Davis lives in a spiritual vacuum. He seeks love however and wherever he can find it, even if it arrives in a gnarled form. Incomplete love leads to desperate, dangerous, addictive, or even cold-blooded acts. If a child, say a child named Raymond Davis, loves himself and yet finds no way to harness negative thoughts and emotions, what might become of him? Would he falsely love himself to the detriment of others? Would he leave his home and family like his mother did and run lickety-split in the wrong direction? Would he kill a man and then steal $4 from that guy's wallet? Does Raymond Davis need to find his way back to balanced love? Is that the simple answer? Find his way back to the source of love that inhabited his soul at birth? "Cheryl," I said, "I think your son is like the rest of us. He's too young to know all that love means, just like you were at age 15, same as I was when I was 15. Time and experience has a cruel way of teaching us just how wrong we can be." Cheryl nodded. "I don't want my son to be bad like I was." "Cheryl, may I offer my honest opinion of you?" She looked at my face and I looked at hers. She nodded. I continued, "You know, you're a good person. When you were young, you didn't realize just how good you were, so you lived accordingly. And now here you are in your early 30s. Your vision is a lot better now than it was 15, 16 years ago. For that reason, you're making better decisions. You have a healthier view of life. You know more now than you once did." Cheryl said, "You know, sometimes I love myself and sometimes I don't. But I get what you're saying." I continued, "Just as you did, Raymond left the nest and tried to fly on his own. He tried to find himself. He's still trying to find himself. I hope he does. I hope I do too. You are finding yourself, Cheryl. You really are. Raymond can follow that path too. People who do what they can to be good are doing exactly what they were made to do. They're moving in a positive direction." Cheryl smiled. She looked pretty, even lovely. I'm psychologist Lee Carter. In our next video, you and I will have one final conversation with Raymond Davis. I'll look forward to seeing you again soon.